Okay, Laura, we had a little discussion before the pre-workup, but I got to ask you a couple questions. Help me out real fast. Just say your first and
All right.
last name a couple times.
My name is Laura Belgrave. Laura
Belgraves.
Belgrave. No
Laura
S on the end.
Belgrave. Laura Belgrave. I
Yes.
It's so important to say someone's name correctly, and it's not one of my strengths. So Laura Belgrave. The other thing I like to do is I'm going to do post-production on this show. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but mostly on the interviews. I'll go back and rewrite your introduction for the podcast.
Okay.
And
Terrific. Thank you.
so a couple of things. We're using Blab. We got to be careful that we don't talk over each other on Blab because Blab uses dubbing and it's a newer technology. So it makes me have to go out into the podcast and actually take out the conversation and work very hard to get the sound correct.
Got it.
Easier said than done to not talk over each other, especially me. My brain flips too fast.
I've been known to do that, Bill, myself, if I get excited about something.
So the most important thing I want to do now, though, is we talked a little bit about Google Plus and some of the things you've done in the past. What I'd like to do is I'm going to ask you a tough question right off the top for the podcast. I'm going to ask you, Laura, welcome to Timelines, and I say hello. And then what I want to do is I'm going to ask you right away. I said, before we get into about you, I want to know more about Google Plus. Tell us how you've used Google Plus in the past and what you think.
Okay.
About it. So that's what I'm going to ask you. Then from there, we'll go to about 10 minutes of break, 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes, we're done.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Here we go. Laura, welcome to Timelines.
Hello, Bill. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, before we get into your background and all the things that you've done in your entrepreneurial journey, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about Google Plus and what have you done with Google Plus in the past?
Okay, Google Plus, as most people may know, although frankly, there are a lot of people who have absolutely no idea what it really is. I think it was Google's answer to Facebook. And in that regard, it sort of failed, I think. It's a much different platform to work with. It can be more difficult. They recently changed the format, which is confusing to a lot of people. But what I learned in working with especially the last nursing facility that I did, was that the value of having a business Google Plus page, and it doesn't cost anything, is you can begin to make posts or put a video on it, whatever you want to do. And as long as you're using the same keywords in the post that you would use in a search or on the website, if you're doing that, the likelihood of those posts now also popping up on the front page of Google is tremendous. So I'm going to give you a specific example. The last place I worked for was a nursing home called Regents Park Boca. Well, that's the website, Regents Park Boca. And it may be, on Google, it might be Regents Park Boca Raton or I'm mixing them up. One could be Facebook. But the point of it is this: I got them onto the front page in probably about 8 months. And that was, I had a terrible website. I rebuilt their website, not using Wix, using something else. And that was an arduous experience. But I do know about the SEO. I've taken some, classes about it. And it's actually fairly intuitive once you wrap your head around it. And then I understood what you could do with Google Plus. So that right now, for example, if you were to do a search, nursing homes Boca Raton, something the average Joe would probably do, even from New York, because a lot of people come down during the season, for their nursing care, short-term nursing rehabilitation. And so if you were to do it, first, Regents pops up organically first, and there are probably 2 other posts from Google Plus. So what does that make it look like? Like you dominate the front page of search, at least for that logical keyword search that the average person would likely use. And that, Facebook did well in its own way too, Bill. But Facebook, a lot of people don't understand this, it's a closed universe. Yes, Google can tell you how many people from social media have gone there. They can't get into the belly of those posts. But of course, they own the universe, Google does. And so whatever happens, whether it's a YouTube or Google Plus or anything Google, the SEO potential is far, far stronger. I don't know that they could pick up Blabs, for example, but they can pick up your YouTubes. Again, if you're consistent in how you use those keywords, keep them up high. And as you know, we were talking earlier about nursing homes. Well, what they like to be known as is skilled nursing facilities. Now, how many people do you really think are doing a search for skilled nursing facilities? They're not. They're searching for a nursing home. That's the public understanding of them. So you may have to do some things that are a little distasteful to you, or not what you'd prefer, industry insider terms, really, because you got to think like the average person would think. And then, of course, there are all kinds of ways you can search keywords and potential other ones, but that's a very competitive term in search, nursing homes, generally speaking. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, so you put out so much information. By the way, assisted care is the one I think of early because it's more, to me, it's a more as evolution as we were talking. But I want to ask a couple more questions before we get on to more about you, Laura. Laura, on the Google, you hit something that maybe I stumbled in by accident too. But I started noticing that we're doing a lot of YouTube. You know, I take this on Blab and I convert it to YouTube and I leave it on a Blab. And all of a sudden we're seeing certain words start to pop up and populating very fast because of this platform using Blab and converting it to YouTube in different places. But the question I have is in Google Plus. Now I help my wife with her real estate. She's really establishing. Jonathan Denwood, who was watching earlier, he's still up there, is developing SaaS products for real estate agents. But I think you really hit on something. And I stumbled into it, that you get this SEO off of the Google products, the Google Plus, the YouTube, and you start looking like a hero by getting those up there. Facebook, the only place I think they search or they try to crawl are the professional sites, and you don't get much off of them. So you sort of automate those and really focus back, I think, on my instinct right now is to focus on Google Plus, just like you're doing. Here's the question. What if I have, for example, my wife, she's got 3 Google Plus sites. She's got 3 profiles. Wow. One for her brokerage and one's for her in California, and then one's for her general. Should she close down 2 of those and just focus on one?
She could be trying perhaps to hit more than one market. Ultimately, this is a challenge I may face, because then, yes, I suppose having 2. Right now, I don't have, well, I do, but I don't. So a Google Plus page.
She's in Reno, and her main business really needs to be focusing on her here. But she has a real estate company still in California, and that has a page, and that looks okay. And we sort of keep that up, but I almost feel like shutting that down. I mean, that company will always be there. It's managing some commercial properties and doing a little bit of traditional real estate. But she really did not expand that company. If I shut those down, I definitely lose the SEO out of it.
Well, you would at that point, yes. And, you know, over time, they won't instantly drop off the radar, but yeah, over time, sure, they would, you know.
And she had a brokerage here, but then she's combined with a bigger brokerage. And I realize now that we probably should go back in there and change that name, and that should just be her personal real estate site. And I was thinking something like Karen Conrad sells homes or something for the tag name, or above. Or
Karen Conrad real estate in Reno. Whatever,
something
in
like
Reno.
That. We're Reno, Tahoe. We're only 20 minutes away from Truckee, and we get right up into Tahoe.
Yeah.
We do that. In fact, I'm a broker in California. If I was doing straight real estate, in between my reserve time, I shut down a construction company, and I did really well just working on ranch property and telling people how they could build custom homes on these big parcels.
Right.
So that was my expertise. I did really well. It was less work than running a design build construction company.
What haven't you done, Bill? Now that's really what I want to know.
I was 9 years active, and then I got out and started a design build construction company, and just worked all the time. But I stayed in the reserves, and that changed. 9/11 hit. It's like a whole new life occurred.
Oh boy, yeah.
So I had to go back and do what I was trained to do as a young officer cadet, and And anyway, so that said, and what I'm doing now, even though I've been around these things, design build engineering, I use, Exchange servers and computers and AutoCAD to the nth degree. I'm doing something completely different now, this digital online marketing business. By the way, what we're doing right now, I was reading in Forbes last week. It was really neat. A Forbes article popped up, then other articles popped up.
Yeah.
It was a really neat article. And the gist of it was, it's exactly what you and I are doing. It says there's 100 to 200,000 jobs popping up in what we're doing. It described what we're doing. And there's no training. There's no formalized training. The universities are way behind. They don't know what to do. But these corporations want people like you and me now to figure this out.
Yeah, it is. It's a little unusual, but you have to keep up with this stuff.
Then it talked about the millenniums are doing well among themselves, but now the older group, us, are starting to use this technology, and they have to get that relativity to understand. The millenniums don't quite relate to the group and the learning management systems. There's just so much out there. I'm kind of really excited to do what we're doing. I'm sorry we went so long on the technical aspects, but I really want to talk a little bit about you, Laura. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a break. We're going to come back and talk about you. I'm going to talk about life and success principles. And I know you started in the Air Force. That'll be a good place to start.
Okay. See you in a minute.
Okay, Laura, we're coming back off the break, and we're going to talk about you and your background. So we know you're born in Cleveland, Ohio. So how do you get from Cleveland, Ohio down to Florida? And what town are you in Florida?
In Boynton Beach. It's inside of Palm Beach County, which geographically, believe it or not, is the largest county in Florida. And it's, you've heard of the town of Palm Beach. Of course, that's part of it. And that sort of colors what Palm Beach County is. And that it's certainly not representative of Palm Beach County, generally speaking. And Donald Trump, of course, has a home in Palm Beach, the town of Palm Beach. So he's a frequent flyer down here too, I guess. But to get from Cleveland, Ohio, here, that's the quirky part. And I don't know if I had mentioned this on your previous show that I was on as a guest, but not a guest. Well, yeah, just a guest.
You came in Blab afterward.
That's right. I came fell into a one-year Blab somehow. Yeah. And 2 days after I graduated from high school, now the option, of course, and I had good grades, go to college. I didn't want to go to college right then. 2 days after I graduated from high school, I went in the Air Force, knowing nothing about nothing. No one in my family had done this except an uncle who has since passed, but he was in the Korean War. I grew up with a mother who raised 3 girls on her own, so I had no male role models. I knew bupkis. But at the little apartment complex where we lived, what I saw was a young black woman. One day, I'd never seen her before, and this was at the pool. And she was just doing some diving and swimming. And I remember, of course, I'm 18. I'm very impressionable yet. But being in awe of the confidence she projected somehow, the poise. And I thought, I was quite shy. And I thought, wow, where do you get this sort of thing? How did that magic happen? And I asked around, and someone said, it might have been Army. I don't remember. But I made this link in my head. That's where you get it. So the fact that I knew nothing or nobody in the service, the fact that it wasn't a popular choice for most women back then, maybe it still isn't, I don't know.
No, you're ahead of your time.
Yeah, that is what inspired me. My mother really, back then, your parents had to sign at the age of 18, and she really didn't want to, but she did. And I was off and running to basic training. And then I was stationed in Massachusetts. And then I went on from there to Germany, and then on from there to England. So and always working in newspapers, or I did articles also for Stars and Stripes. But because in high school and all of this, I'd been taking, journalism, not classes, but I was on the school paper, and I've always been a writer. Basically, I've always been a writer. So that's how I wound up doing that. And it happened to be during the Vietnam War era. I wasn't political. I didn't have any, I'll be honest, I didn't have any huge political motivations. I just wanted that confidence thing I saw that young woman have. And boy, did I get it after, I'll never forget this one little story. This is of the drill sergeants. And we're doing this parading thing and this marching thing. And she stops the whole troop. They were called troops in the Air Force. And comes over and gets in my face. Airman Belgrave, you think something's funny? I'm quivering. No, ma'am. She said, then why are you smiling like that? Well, I wasn't smiling. The sun was in my damn eyes. So I guess I was looking like this or something. But to be called out like that, this will brave you up after a point. This will brave you up. And so I did get that confidence. I made some wonderful, wonderful friends. And then I don't know about your experiences, but of course, when I got out, the biggest disappointment, the Vietnam War was very unpopular. Thus, if you were associated with it in any fashion, so were you. And when I got out, I understood, and I have since subsequently really understood this. Now everybody is vet this and vet that, and thank you for your service. We didn't get any of that. We got castigated, basically. And that was hurtful. That was hurtful. Now, back in the day, I could not go into combat zones. Only nurses ever could back then. So, I was never in a war zone or anything like that, or over in Vietnam. My husband was. But still, it's like, didn't I count for anything? But that's the tenor of the times was such that, no, there's something evil because you were in that terrible war, you're in that Vietnam era. It's changed a lot with more recent battle scenes or, wars and so on. But that always stung a little bit somehow to be made to feel bad because you had, served your country in whatever fashion. In my case, it was obviously a support capacity. But that was bothersome for me. Between that and the confidence boost I did get while I was in there, though, I think that helped direct my career path. So
I think right out of high school to go into the military, enlisted, or going as a cadet, any of the programs, I think it's a great thing to do. It matures you. It opens up a lot of avenues that you never have, no matter who you are. You just have to keep, you don't have to have amazing grades in high school, but you have to get clean and you have to have decent grades. And it's a great track. You had a good track. I'd strongly recommend what you did. The Air Force, public affairs, we call it, PAO office, and newspaper journalism and all that training. In Mass, I'm going to guess in Mass. Where were you in Massachusetts?
Westover.
Westover, yeah, it's nice out to the west.
Yeah. And Westover was basic training.
And then Germany. Where were you in Germany?
Wiesbaden.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. I was there 18 months. It was a beautiful, beautiful country. Of course, I didn't speak the language. I took a conversational German course. So, I could do things like count to 10 and ask where the bathroom was.
They used to, DLI had tapes they would send you, really good tapes, the CDs back then. And then finally, maybe that was before the CDs. And then finally, I'm guessing you're in Mildenhall, England.
Yes, Mildenhall.
That's a nice,
also a lovely area.
Yeah, you had 3 great posts to be at. What experience! And they were paying you to be in these places and do journalism.
Well, and here's one of the most interesting parts to me. I was actually the first woman to go up in an F-4 Phantom fighter jet. Did I tell you this before? I don't know.
No, I'd love to go up in an F-4 Phantom. I've never.
Well, it was a publicity stunt. Okay. I don't know what they spent to have me do this, and I had to go through this training. You had to be able to eject from one of those planes in 8 seconds, and believe me, you were harnessed in every which way. You felt like you were strapped into this plane. It was an incredible plane. And off we went. You could only fit 2 people, the pilot and I guess a co-pilot. So I was in the back seat, and, we swooped all over Germany. And when they pull these G-forces, I had no understanding of that until after the fact. Suddenly you feel like you've got 10 people sitting on you, and then you're weightless. And then up and down, and you're going swoop-de-doop-de-doo. And he gave me the controls at one point, the stick. And so I did a little swoop-de-doop-de-doo. And it was a thrill. I would never do it today, but it was a thrill. And I wrote about the experience, leaving out one part. The part I left out, I'll never forget this young man who was so gracious. When we landed, you traditionally you get out of the plane and the first thing they do is crack open a bottle of champagne and you take your inaugural drink or whatever it is. Well, up in that plane, I had done what I've come to understand many fighter pilots routinely do, even the real experienced ones. Of course, I puked my guts out up in a little barf bag. I was like, whoa. And an airman came up before I clambered down out of that plane and discreetly removed that because, of course, there was a photography crew there too. And somewhere I have those pictures posted, probably on my personal Facebook page. I don't know. But I'll never forget that kind of kind gesture. And then having to get down after all of that and go, I was beat at the age of 18 or maybe I was 19 at that point. It was like something else.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I've seen a lot of, that same experience. Strange thing. You'll never know what you'll do until you're in combat. But after people are done with combat, they'll have a tendency to go throw up. Same thing.
Yeah, I can understand. I will understand it.
Even the strongest and bravest of soldiers is kind of a strange thing. Hey, that was an amazing story, but we're going to have to take a break again. We're going to come back. Usually it's for how do we get a hold of you in your commercial. But what I want to do when we come back, I want you to jump ahead and how you got into Florida and what you're doing now.
Okay. I'm good for shooting from the hip. I'm surprised at how often I have done that.
Laura, this is just a fascinating discussion, and we only have about 5 minutes left, so we've got a lot to do in 5 minutes. Coming back off the break, we've got a question from Jonathan. It says, Laura, what do you see as the future of local and national newspapers?
I've heard conflicting stories about this. My own gut is this. You're going to see them continue to vanish as a printed breed, particularly as the demographics are changing and people are more accustomed to being online. That's what, and I think they're struggling with that because they have to have payment models in order to sustain that, and advertisers, of course. The experience is not at all the same, as regular newspapers. Now, in my case, having started as a journalist now for large local daily newspapers, the murder and mayhem side, but I started with an afternoon paper. What happened over time was they spiraled down. They were being bought up or merging with the morning edition, etc. And that's what, that's what happened to me. And I could see that this was the trend. Now, they don't ever tell you this right away. They just sort of dump it on you, although that was a persistent rumor. So I was the city editor of a local newspaper here in Florida called the Evening Times. It was actually the sister newspaper to the Palm Beach Times, or Palm Beach Post, and Palm Beach Newspapers, Inc. And when I saw where it was going, I decided to get out of that. And I took time off and I went off and, wrote books and stuff. And then I got back in with the Tampa Tribune, the St. Pete Times, certain of those. So I bounced around from, the East Coast to the West Coast of Florida, and as primarily then ultimately as an editor. So the future, I don't think is very good for them. I think we've already seen that many, many fine papers have folded. They're skinny. They're so skinny. There's nothing in them. The New York Times, that's going to last a good long while yet. But even online now, of course, you see if you watch more than X number of articles, you're going to have to start paying for them. So it's all changing. But of course, this is a trend happening in all businesses too, I think. And those who fail to keep up are sort of dooming themselves, or it's going to be too late at some point. That's my gut on it, having been in that business, still knowing journalists. And I respect it quite a bit, not as much as I did when I was in, because what was a competitor for newspapers, for example, TV, now they're all in bed together too. So, they have to. This is how they're surviving. Partnerships, this, that, and the other. So it's just like I don't think print is ever going to go away for books. And if it does, it'll be a very, very long time. But obviously there's fierce competition now coming from the other side of that too, called ebooks and the whole ebook explosion, which is working out very well for best-selling authors like, say, Stephen King. He can do anything and he can write anything. It's going to come out in, hardcover, paperback, online. You can get him any way you want to get him now. And it's competition that's so fierce because of the advent of the internet and its increasing sophistication, often bringing with it many technical issues and problems for those who are working in that field. I hope I answered that.
That's really good. While we're talking here, I just used Grammarly to fix a tweet because a little yellow button showed up there, and that means the last 30 seconds were captured, and I can tweet that out. It's something new that they've added to Blab in the last week and a half.
Oh, see, there you go.
Well, yeah, that was very good. Now, we're going to ask you for a quick commercial about how the listener can get a hold of you and how they can help you.
All right. Well, I love that. Sure. Again, my name is Laura Belgrave, and my professional website is everonwardmedia.com. That's everonwardmedia.com, because I am a believer and I've practiced this my whole career of moving ever onward. Wherever, my path was taking me, and it was always ever onward. So it's everonwardmedia.com. If you want to hit my Facebook business page, it's facebook.com/everonwardmedia. And those are the two key places where I am now. And I have an alternate site just for my books, which I've unfortunately had to neglect lately, called laurabelgrave.com. So a bit of a dual personality going on here online and trying to figure out what best to do about that. But those are my sites. You can also reach me just by giving me a holler. I'm at 954-234-5226.
Very good, Laura. And with that, we have one last question.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I've never done this before in one of these timelines, my modern timeline interview. I didn't ask you about time and success, so you don't get one last question, but I'm going to ask you really fast. You put 5 of them. We're going to go fast through these. So the first one you talked about was believe in what I know and can share. What does that mean to you?
That means don't oversell myself. I am very confident in what I know how to do and the certain kinds of markets I think I can do it for most successfully. So I'm not going to put myself out there as someone who can do it all. In my mind, there is no such thing as a social media expert. You see people all the time touting themselves as such. I don't believe it. You can't. You can be all over the place. You cannot be an expert in everything, especially fields that change so quickly. So what you see is what you get. This is really me, how I talk, how I feel. Well, if I've had a glass of wine at night, I can get a little bit more loquacious, but that's what I am. And so I will. Like so next, by the same token, people expect things too cheaply. And if I'm going to give, the expertise, I'm not a high-priced studio, obviously. So people are going to get a more affordable kind of product for me. But I am not going to, I've made the mistake in the past, undersell my knowledge and the expertise I know I had. I don't expect to bring a plumber over here and try and talk him down in his price, because he's got the expertise I don't have, period.
Very good. So we're going to go through these quickly. We've got 4 more. Give clients and those who interact with me 110%.
That's what I do. I use a professional timing program when I'm doing something online, for example, called Office Time. And it's going to, alert me if I've wandered away to refill my coffee and got distracted, came back and said, you've been away from your computer for, keep the money, change. No, take it out. And I do a lot of photography. I go into Photoshop a lot. Now, the general public may not notice the difference between a good shot and a really good shot, which means I'm going to take it into Photoshop for that client. I'm going to enhance it. I'm going to make sure the lighting actually is as good as it can get. That's what I'm talking about, 110%. Am I charging them for that? No. Do I charge when they pick up the phone and suck up on a half hour of conversation? No. I may have to change that at some point. That's part of what being an entrepreneur is, though, is learning. So they get everything. When I'm locked onto my computer doing this kind of work for them, they get every bit of me, period, end of story.
Very good. Don't be afraid of failure. It's only one way to learn.
It is one way to learn. And if you don't fail ever, and Steve Jobs, I think, was a famous one for saying this, and there have been others, then you're just not going to advance. You can't, not everything we do is always going to be right. But you can't let that stop you.
Succeed than fail, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
It's better to succeed than fail. Some things, no catastrophic failures, please. That's one thing you can't have.
No.
As long as you can get back up on your feet and keep on going, you're fine.
Yep.
Work with what you have. You can upgrade later. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I started off in Wix. It gave me a perfectly adequate site. I see it's going to have shortcomings for some of the things I want to do, which is why I'm taking the time and the expense for this particular WordPress course so I do get it right and nail it. I don't struggle with tech too much, but its familiarity is what I need and real expertise. So for me, that's what I have to do, and then settle on these. I'm dabbling in a couple of different of these live streaming things. In the end, I'm going to have to say, this one's not really doing anything much for me, or this one's not. I have to focus for my ideal audience.
Okay. And finally, take some time for yourself. Life is short.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a certain point of day I try to shut off. And you know what? Usually these are not emergencies that come in. But when you hear that bing on your phone or some alert coming in, the inclination is to jump on immediately, try and respond. And I think that can be a mistake. We better maintain another part of our lives. My family is important to me. My friends are important to me. And, I think it's easy to, yes, work hard, but after a point, remember yourself too.
Well, Laura, I've got an offer for you. This has been one of the more interesting timelines in technology because it's what I'm doing. We are different coasts. I want you to come back on, if you'd like, in 90 days and tell us where you are. I'm going to give you a little bit of homework if you don't mind.
Oh, thanks. That's all I need is one thing more on my to-do list. Bill, go ahead.
Your homework,
lay it on me.
We're going to do something that works. We're going to tell you, what do you think about WordPress and what have you learned in the last 90 days about WordPress?
Oh, okay.
And what do you think you're going to do with WordPress? Those 3 things. You'll tell us about WordPress. That'll be good.
Okay.
So that'll be the conversation on your experience learning WordPress out of the box of your course.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good one because I hope like hell I'm done rebuilding it. Well, if it weren't for clients in the way right now, I'd be there.
We'll set a date. And and if you want that one last question, folks, you're going to have to listen to the YouTube on timelinesofsuccess.com or just go to timelinesnetcast.com and you'll have to listen to Laura's episode, which is 222 on timelines. You can also Google her name, Laura, and you'll find it. So thank you, Laura, for coming on. Stay on for the YouTube section. We're going to talk a few more minutes. We're going a little bit late. I usually go to about 10:30 Pacific, which is about another 21 minutes. And then I need to get to work.
Thank you so much, Bill, for having me on here. I appreciate it. And to the audience.
I do want to tell you something else I'm going to do. I'm just telling in front of the folks, I appreciate that offer for taking the $5 course. I opened up my Netcasting 101, which is my big course, and I tested it with 16 people, and they signed up. And it's still open at $139, and for those who sign up. But it's going to eventually go to be pretty expensive. The big course is going to be a 3-layered tier course. But if you sign up for that $5 course, and anyone who's come on, who's up right now, who's been on one of our shows, our timeline shows, they sign up for that $5 course when it comes up. I'll go ahead and remind me, I'll give you the full phone membership, which I hope someday is really worth, $700 or $800. I'm not going to build the website. I think I'm going to offer for a short period of time to build the website hooked up in social media, which if you look at my sites, they all look the same because I created my own child theme with using Genesis. I have Genesis for framework and I have my child. So it allows me to build a WordPress site pretty fast.
And where is that link, Bill?
Right now, you don't need it. I'll send it to you when I got it because I plan to have the $5 Blab course done 3 weeks ago and it's not done.
Okay.
But what I'm using is, I'll tell you what tools I'm using. I'm using Lifter LMS for the plugin. I'm using WordPress. And I'll be testing out Lifter MLS and WordPress in this first $5. I tested out my Netcasting 101 using basically Infusionsoft's payment.
Heard
I'll
of it,
probably
yes.
be using for initially with Lifter MLS learning management system. I'll probably be using PayPal, but I'm going to go to Stripe and then integrate that in with Infusionsoft. If I want to integrate directly into the Infusionsoft marketing case, which is like Stripe, the cost from Lifter MLS is about $300 a year for that integration, that API. So all these things you'll know in the next 90 days if you don't know them now. But that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to create here's another thing too. And I believe this. About a year ago, I was looking at creating a less expensive podcasting course than these $1,000 podcasting courses are out there. Because I didn't think it needed to be $1,000. But then I started thinking, I don't think the average person should even set up a podcast. I think what you need to do is you need to record something. I was using Skype with Call Recorder, which is beautiful, high definition video, and then put it up on YouTube and stack it. So what I did is I went and interviewed what I consider to be some 12 podcasters and some of the top in the industry. And we came to the conclusion we shouldn't create this into a podcast. So I took the best and put it on timelines. But that got me thinking even more. Before someone creates a podcast, they need to create a Blab and put it up on YouTube and call it a day, and then learn how to use those two elements. Then go to podcasting, because podcasting is a time suck and takes a lot of to create an RSS feed and hook everything up. You need to create a podcast. It's a lot of work. It's not difficult, but there's about 1,000 things you have to do. So that was sort of my background. Now I'm evolving even more so. The other thing I try to do was I was doing streaming media for people, showing them how they could do it for free. And it's not that hard. It's easier than podcasting. Google Plus hooked up with a laptop, and then hooking in with we have casinos here and a lot of venues. They can stream anything. So I'm still going out to other groups and doing that. I haven't monetized that per se. I made a little bit, but that it's frustrating that people don't even want to take the effort to learn to do this for free. And I'm in the nonprofit and political realm, and it's like education. They should be streaming everything so everyone can see what they've missed. Their meetings, all these open meetings should be streamed. And the only thing is I caution people, even though it's legal to stream and to interview people, you should always tell people ahead of time, make it public that this is being recorded, even in a public venue. I think it's just good practice. So no one comes back and say, you're secretly recording or something.
Right.
With an iPhone, you can do that now. The iPhone 6, it's amazing. You get the right monitor, you can stream. By the way, there we are. I'm monitoring what we look like on another feed.
Oh.
So what a show. You're really interesting what you're doing. What I like is we're older and we're learning this new technology.
I am a woman of a certain age, proud of it. And for me, it is all about ever onward.
Yeah. And I had stories in newspapers too to talk about. I was up at Christmas time having at a party on Lake Tahoe at State Line. And I was with, I think he was second in charge of the newspaper here locally, and he's going to retire. I think he's retired by now. I need to get back and interview him. He was really depressed. He'd been 35 years in journalism.
Yeah.
And I guess the newspaper is running out of money, he's told me. He said, and I said, well, why don't you create a RSS feed with streaming video? Go out and take two of your reporters and make with iPhones, whatever it is, just basic cameras, and go and do the news around town, bring it in, edit it at 5 o'clock and put it live streaming at 6 and just have it so we can replay it. You could put it in the front of your Mac. You'd instantly have a lot of people, you can do it on podcasting. You can stream, video and make a little news channel of 20 minutes of news every day. And he said, well, we don't want to do anything that competes with a newspaper or cost any more money. Well, gosh darn it. This is where we're going. This multimedia is the place to be. They didn't want to do that. Now they have an okay website, but they didn't want to create this competition of online news. And then I said, well, look at the local news stations, the big expensive with all the trucks and all the equipment. You notice they haven't painted their buildings and their trucks are wearing out and their equipment looks old.
Right.
You'll be able to do circles around them.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate, but it's the way of the world now. And
it's a new equipment. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of equipment to set up a studio.
Yeah.
Here's what I figured it would take $200,000 to hire a reporter, 2 reporters, male and female, with both basic equipment, and then do editing, hire an editor, and then hire a marketer. You need at least those 4 people to make a cell to experiment. Now, that's a couple $100,000 minimum, because of payroll a year.
Yeah. Well,
So if you sold more than that in advertising, which I think you would, you'd have it. And just think if they put their little thing, see us live every day at 6:00 on this, you teach people how to do the feed. And then you do learning management systems where you just send out a simple little training clip, a 2-minute training clip of how to do it, how to watch it. It's all over.
well, it's interesting because I just got, for my recent birthday, I got Amazon's Echo.
Oh, I've heard of Echo. I've heard.
Now, I just plugged it in yesterday. I don't know what I'm doing. And I had to make sure to turn her off right now because if I even say her name, she'll start to respond to me.
I've heard good things about Echo from very top people. Jim Collison.
I think it's going to be a fabulous, fabulous thing that I will actually use, if for no other reason, to turn on my favorite music or whatever they're going to do. So I'm kind of giggly about it yet and excited. It's going to take me a while to really nail my head around it, but I'll get to that too. But that's more of a fun thing. Although what I was going to mention is there's apparently a way you can identify certain news outlets, and you'd say, I hope I don't turn her on. Alexis, play me the top news, and she's going to come up with the top headlines, brief summaries, or whatever. And I think that could be useful because I have a tendency, I'm so involved and I'm sitting always in front of a computer that I miss, what's going on in the world.
Well, you look like to be very good health and shape. Do you get out and walk and exercise and eat right?
No, I used to until I started doing this.
I bet you eat right, though.
No, not often.
You must have.
Let me just tell you, last night, and can't even remember the last time I did this, but I wasn't hungry because I'd hardly done anything. I ate potato chips. So what dinner was?
Eat potato chips till I started doing this work.
No, this is right now, and actually, I have one of those sit-stand desks, and I can make it go up automatically and then go back down so that I'm off my butt, and at least that much, and then I can do some leg exercises while I'm trolling or reading Social Media Examiner, that sort of thing. So that's useful. But I was walking, I was doing all that stuff. But ever since I left that job and in a nursing facility, boy, you were walking endlessly down hallways back and you're all over the place. And I was up and down shooting video. So I got to get a grip on that. That's for sure. And that's.
Well, this business is momentum. Unless you have tons and tons of money, and even if you have tons of money, you better go out and study, and you better learn security and the basics of WordPress. Then you can contact everything out and find the very best trainers and teachers and coaches.
Right.
But I know someone, and Jonathan, who's up with us too, knows someone who spent $36,000 an engineer on training, and he bought lists, and he make money. He made a little bit of money, but he had to go back and work in the petroleum industry. But you can blow a lot of money in this business too. That's why it's inch by inch. You got to start. That's why I think you learn WordPress, you learn security. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you. I used to ask this question: are you a Mac or PC?
I'm a Mac and happy of it. I had been on PCs, but that was a long time ago. And it's like anything. Once you get accustomed to whatever your platform is, and you've got all your investments in that platform, you're going to stay with it. I don't think Apple is quite as good as it was when Steve Jobs was still alive. But I
think I agree.
But it is good still, and it works for me. Every time I have to get on somebody's PC, it's like, oh, for God's sake. And they can't find I'll find it for them before they will, because I'm accustomed to menus and how they generally are going to work. And, they just can't find stuff. So,
I had an Apple Mac last week, but this week is good. My MacBook Pro, which I use for streaming, we've got in the family, we've got 4 MacBooks now. MacBook Pro I use for streaming. The fan was running a lot, and I've used the heck out of this, and it's a hybrid machine. It's it's an expensive machine. And so I did a trouble analysis on it. It came up with a code where that said the solid state hard drive was going out. I did some research, and I finally got it into the, I have an iMac we're using now, but I have the 3-year program. It's a high-end iMac. And the best thing I ever did is buy the 3-year support for this. I don't have it in anything else.
Me too.
When I'm talking to him, I'll ask him about other things. And then I got it. You can go into the Genius Bar in the store. But the reason why I support Mac for anybody older, especially, or anybody now, especially older, even if they're great in PCs, which I was pretty good in PCs, I run an Exchange server, is because I got my sister into an Apple store, and she learned from that $99 course how to be very good in Apple, and I didn't have to train her.
No, I love the Apple. We're right now. I'm on my iMac. I too have a MacBook Pro. Of course, I've got an iPad and I've got the iPhone.
Yeah, so I know. Which iPhone do you have? I just got this one. I had an iPhone. I got the S. I do the S cycle every cycle.
Yeah, this is the S. It's not the last. It's the iPhone 6S.
Yeah, I've got the 6S. No, I've got. Is it the S?
I think it's the S. Yeah,
I've got the 6S Plus. You must. Is it the same thing?
If you're it's Plus. Yeah, it's Plus. It's bigger. The bigger one.
Same thing I have. I think.
I think I do. Yeah, it looks like you've got a Mophie on the back of yours too.
It takes about 2 days to get used to the bigger phone, but they say everyone who uses this never goes back. My wife did not want to go with a bigger phone, and she's not wouldn't even touch this one because it's too big. And anyway, this is too good.
Works
but I was going to say, what I did last week though is I had my wallet on the corner sitting on top of this, and I couldn't left click it. I could right click, but not left click. I couldn't get into stuff, and it was the middle of doing everything. And so I went ahead and went to troubleshoot, and I called up the support, and we missed that there's something laying on this. So I went and did a complete reinstall from right clicking of the operating system and recovering everything. And when I did that, it screwed up my system's pref, and it didn't recognize the computer with my Apple account. So I had to go in and then take out the kernel. So I spent about 4 or 5 hours, and all I had to do was take my wallet off of this. I saw it.
That was it. I've got one of those sitting on my desk, and I've never used it. I've never used it.
We're stuck on like this.
To the mouse. I just,
By the way, this mouse is one of the poor products that Apple made. The new mouse is much better that you plug in. They've had a lot. This is one of the very few really.
Yeah, it's the same thing I've got, I think.
The new one is that you plug it in and it's a solution. It works fine. But the Bluetooth connection this is one of their weaker products. I got a new one. I sent the other one back, and I said, you really should give me credit to give more of the newer modern ones and not even sell this, because this is not up to your standards. Yeah. I do like the swipe and all the functionality, though.
Yeah, and I like the size for my hand. I really like the size of it. Works for me. But
yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the design, like you said, the design is great. It's just the Bluetooth technology wasn't as good as it should be. I even bought the rechargeable batteries for it. They're recommended batteries. Bill, are you going to ask Laura about future of newspapers? Yeah, we did. Jonathan, we did. Did you miss that? We asked that.
Yeah, and I apologize to anybody who's on the chat part, because I haven't been able to keep up or pay attention right now. Appreciate everybody who's out here who's joined us.
Talk to me, Guy. The Chromebook is amazing. The newer Chromebooks, I don't know if I'm going to stick with it, but Dr. Nicholas Hernandez, we got a Chromebook, and he has been doing awesome things. Plus, I really like the Google, if you learn just everything about Google and all of their widgets and platforms, and then you use LastPass. Do you use any password management?
I do. I use 1Password.
And the reason why
I like it a lot.
1Password. The reason why I didn't go with that because it was too expensive for my family. I went to LastPass, which is free, and the upgrade is $12, and the upgrade puts it on all my PCs.
Yeah, well, so does 1Password. And thank goodness for that, because if I'm somewhere else, I'm setting up, that Amazon thing yesterday. I had to get all these passwords while you went to the phone, so it's all over every device.
In my introductory business course, the very first thing I was teaching was to learn LastPass or 1Pass. I was teaching LastPass. I said, learn LastPass. And I can't tell you how many business guys didn't want to learn LastPass. And I give up. I won't work with you if you don't want to learn LastPass. I got this nonprofit that I've done literally thousands and thousands of dollars of work for, and the president who gets in there doesn't want to apply LastPass. He just lost his computer, some virus. And I said, we set up a LastPass for you, and they're all in there. And guess what? He doesn't know his LastPass password. He can't recover it. He didn't care enough, because they're all in there, all his passwords and everything's there. And then I talked to these people and said, I don't want to bank online. I'm scared, but it's already online anyway. And your check itself will get more. If somebody gets hold of a paper check, they can do more damage you can imagine.
No, you've got to have this. And I have 2 backup systems. Of course, I've got Timeline on an external hard drive, and then I'm using a cloud-based service. as well.
What do you use for cloud
backup.
base?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Okay.
You think I remember? Backblaze. That's it.
I've heard of Backblaze. I've never used it. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive here, and then I've got some things backed up. Yeah, you probably have a big iMac like me.
I do.
I got 3 terabytes on my iMac, and I've got 2 of them filled up.
Yeah.
I will.
As soon as you get into video or something, boy, is that baby going to fill up fast. And I have duplicates all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I try to repurpose
all my video and external, and then just package it and get rid of it.
Yeah, that's what I should do. I've got another drive just for doing that, but I do it?
Laura, you know tech. This is nice coming from Jonathan.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
You should come on if you get a time. It's 12 o'clock your time, but come up on WP Tonic afterward. We're reviewing websites too, and just check in with it. And like I said, I'd like to have you back in about 3 months with that homework, and I will send you a link as soon as hopefully I get this $5 course back. Let me give you some links. You said you wanted. I think you're well ahead of this, but on WordPress, let me give you something. This is an old site of mine. It's new. I'll put the link in mediagold.com. I'm actually vacating this name. It's actually a technical name of my company. I got 2 companies. One's Conrad Pacific. We got 3. First Realty, California, Conrad Pacific. The problem with this site, when you open this up right now, the problem with this site is it's got the automatic feed to what we're talking about. So if you open this up, it'll start talking to you. So you got to close it down right away. And you can't even go to it. If you go to the
Media Gold?
New Media, I just put the link in there.
Okay.
So if you go to that link, it's going to start talking to you pretty fast. But I'll send you some links afterward to this site. And what it is I've done a lot of research. There's some really good WordPress training that's really, really, really good that I'll send you. It's free on there. It's really good.
Okay.
It's the higher level stuff. Done a lot of research. Do you ever go to WordPress meetups locally?
No, I haven't. Again, this is so fast for me. Everything I'm doing, it's impossible for me to keep up with everything I want to. I keep hearing references to this, that, and the other, and I so want to go there, but it's like, there again, now what am I doing? I'm sitting even more.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about this. Finish up. What is your day like? Where do you put your priorities right now?
Well, right now I am truthfully, I'm serving some clients, local clients, but I'm also huge on my learning thing, because my eventual goal is to set up, as I said, an online course to a specific kind of audience. And to do that properly, I need to learn from the people who have done it properly, or who can advise me. And I look them over carefully before I commit to something, because some of these are pretty pricey.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're overpriced.
Yeah.
They're not pretty priced. They're overpriced. That's what
they're overpriced.
Linda, have you had a Linda subscription?
Yeah, I have. I only recently quit it because I realized that I was really, honestly, not able to keep up. I was, on the $25 a month thing, and I loved the courses, but I couldn't keep up, Bill.
Linda is a step above YouTube finding stuff. It's still not the hardcore stuff in the coaching. So it just, again, I struggle with the same problems you have. I think I'm getting better at it. I've learned through trial and error. That's why I have so many websites, got domains, but you got to break it down. Then you got to monetize it and then get a product up. I would say for you is get WordPress down. Just really focus at getting WordPress and your clients. You're doing social media for your clients now?
Yeah, social media and video.
Oh, you've been in video for a long time. You know how to do video. What do you use for editing in your video?
I use both ScreenFlow and iMovie.
I was going to talk about ScreenFlow. I was going to mention it to you. Don't you love ScreenFlow?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not expert enough at it. So some things I fumble around. I probably spend more time than I should. It's got some advantages until you get into you would probably already know all this stuff.
No.
But it's like I'm looking at the audio filters, I guess, or actions they call them. It's like, what the hell does that mean? They're all written in technical engineering language. Tell me, what's that going to do? And I don't know what they are. So I have actually, from time to time, to improve the video, when I'm all done making what I'm going to make in screencast, I export it as an MP4. Then I bring it into iMovie, where the words are logical common sense every day, and I can make my adjustments to audio that I feel I need to make,
Are you
and
using
then export it
Screencast
again.
or ScreenFlow?
ScreenFlow.
ScreenFlow. You said Screencast. Okay.
I'm sorry. No, ScreenFlow.
Yeah, I agree. I think ScreenFlow, if I had to say, learn the WordPress, you already know ScreenFlow. And then iMovie. You know where I'm going into is iMovie. I asked the Apple folks, this is what Apple doesn't do. And by the way, this morning, I spent 30 minutes this morning, first thing this morning, on my nice, clean MacBook Pro, very clean, reinstalling my Adobe suites in one of them, and then going through the training. So I trained for half an hour this morning on Adobe.
Right.
But
Okay.
I was going to ask, iMovie, I think what you're doing with iMovie and ScreenFlow are the two tools that we can all take and make money with.
There's no question in my mind. I mean, honestly, iMovie, it has a reputation for being the baby thing. It makes fine movies.
You can make money with that. That's where to start. I would start. That's where I am. I'm going back. Now, here's the problem is I was talking to the Mac folks, and I asked them, how can I learn iMovie? They don't have any real training in Mac unless you go to the store, and that's limited. But iMovie, so where would I go to learn iMovie really well? What should I do?
Oh boy, lynda.com did have a good course before I quit that subscription. I took it there.
So maybe $25 I can get in Lynda for a month. I think they do it free if I reestablish it.
Yeah, they do. There's another fella he's very inexpensive, and I can't think of his name off the top. I'm going to have to look it up in 1Password to find it.
So I need to learn
iMovie
stuff. And learn it fast, because I'll tell you what, it's not inherently intuitive.
No, none of these programs are as much. And one of the mistakes I think Apple has made with software, iTunes in particular, is they've muddied it up. So it's like, where is it now? How do I find my movies?
When I started doing,
it makes me crazy.
I started on GarageBand, and it did really well in dubbing and gives some really good sound. And then they upgraded so many times, I got tired of having to relearn it, and I went to Adobe Audition, which is a little faster, by the way, much more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But the sound on GarageBand is really excellent. They just don't have a friendly interface as it should be, and I can't cut out stuff as fast as I can in Adobe Audition.
Well, I've never played music in my life. I do not know how to read music, but I made a cute little diddly song in GarageBand when it first came out, and I've used it as the background in a couple of the videos I've made. Yeah.
By the way, if you log in blab.im certification, you come up with this. I made this while I was doing a blab with Mike. Mike, it might be up there. And I made this on the fly with that's an example of why YouTube's so strong. I should type in blab.im certification or verification. And that crazy little movie I just stuck up there comes up. It's down below. And that's how to get your little, so I got little lightning bolt. You can put a little check mark. And I did that while we're actually doing the show, because we're talking about, we do a show on Friday night called The Weekly Scam. Terrible name. And
it's catching, compelling, isn't it?
Yeah, but people do listen to it, and our numbers are okay on YouTube. So I don't know if I want to be associated with scam, but we try to talk about good things afterward too.
Yeah. I'm trying to actually put some of these links on.
You can find those links for me. That would be good, because I do want to learn iMovie. I think that's all I need for now. But I say iMovie and basically iMovie is good, and then ScreenFlow. And those two things, you do WordPress, iMovie, and ScreenFlow. You can master those three things, and YouTube. And that's not that expensive. If you just bought iMovie is basically free. ScreenFlow is $100 one time. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty inexpensive, really, for a good program.
Now, who are you using for a host on your WordPress sites too?
Well, right now, the WordPress site that we are creating as a class, each of our own, is being secretly hosted on Christina Hill's thing.
Yeah,
they're not available to search.
Yeah, I've got
right. So when I'm ready with that, and after they've gone over it with me, and we've buffered up some stuff, and I understand all the implications of the different themes, etc., then I will, with their help, move this off of Fat Cow. I love Fat Cow as a server. I've put many clients onto it for their own websites, because human beings answer the phone very quickly for anybody. Mm-hmm. and they'll stay on until they've resolved your issue.
Well, I started with
So
Bluehost.
I like that a lot.
They have terrible customer support, but they're okay for the price. I would not recommend it anyway. We constantly are researching providers. So if you look at my Netcasting 101, which is my future money site, which is on DigitalOcean, which Jonathan's up there. I'm always scared about DigitalOcean because it doesn't have a cPanel, but it's super fast and it's the future. But what I recommend to people now is going over to, for resources would be SiteGround. They're unbelievable for speed. They're supporters of WordCamps too.
Okay.
So SiteGround, I just, if you go to Netcasting 101, I just blabbed about that. And there's my resources. Not saying you need this now, but that's an affiliate account. So I tell people if they're trying to make a little bit of money, start setting up some affiliates that you like. And we joke about it. It's like the ultimate MLM in WordPress. Everybody buying from everybody else.
Right.
Don't use your own site. Amazon, I have an Amazon reseller account, not a reseller, but Amazon affiliate account. But DigitalOcean I'm using. It's pretty amazing. I have Bluehost, paid for 3 years in the cloud.
Yeah.
And I've got DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean costs more, but it's so darn easy and works so well. But it's not American.
Really?
It's a European, and they have a server in Chicago. So do you drop those links in there? We're going to drop the links down below on the right side.
What links? Me?
You said you had some training links for.
Yeah, but I'm going to have to look them up afterwards. I think because the one guy's name won't come to me right off the top.
You could send this. I'm trying to learn like iMovie right now. That's my goal. Anybody else out there and listening have some good iMovie training? Anyway, I definitely want you iMovie training. The thing is, there's lots of it out there, but how do you find out what the good training is? So you're not wasting time.
That's tricky. So, I'll always start off with a YouTube search if I want something, or sources that come from, some of the like Social Media Examiner.
Oh, yeah.
They're not typically, that's a very good one. I try to keep up with that. But that's mostly for learning the changes that are coming our way.
Have you gone to any, there's another good question we didn't ask. As you've learned what you're learning, have you gone to any training, outside the area or any conferences?
No. It's outside of my wallet right now because I'm busy spending my money doing this, who's this? Laura, what is the most difficult of this online stuff that you have had to learn?
Let me get that question up. I'm trying to open up some space here so we can get that question up. Where'd that question? Did I knock that? I didn't knock that out, did I?
Well, I think you might have. Because
it wasn't there. That's one of the Blab isms. I definitely, Laura, what is the most, I'm trying to, she could drop that question again. That's too bad. I don't know how I did that. Because it wasn't on the left side. I was just clearing out the left side. It wasn't showing up. It must, if you don't clear out a question, it must stack it or something. So what was that question?
It was basically Jonathan's, I think, and it was about, or maybe Jonathan had just added back in there somewhere.
I did it. Sorry, I didn't. It's Jonathan's fault that I knocked it out.
Let's blame Jonathan. Right?
You got it. You got it down. You're perfect. You got to come on our show. You understand the first rule is we blame Jonathan.
Jonathan did it all. That's right.
First rule, we blame Jonathan.
Okay. Now, I think the question referred to of all the things that I've been learning as I move forward with, my own new startup business, what's been the most difficult? Well, it's actually a two-part answer for me because part of it is organizing my time. I need to organize my time better. Okay. This is how much time you're going to spend on that WordPress course today. Here's how much time you're going to spend with the clients. The clients will always come first, so that can interrupt your flow. This is how much time you need to take a break, go down to the clubhouse, walk on the treadmill for a half hour, whatever, come back. And that's the kind of thing. In terms of learning stuff, WordPress is a bit challenging, but that's a time factor. I feel like I'm behind. There's like 8 modules, and they're all, you do this stuff. Here are the assignments, and you do them, and then you pass them on to their crew who checks them, etc. And then she's got 2 live calls with her membership. I didn't even get onto their Facebook private group because I'm already on one with a young woman named Amy Schmidtauer, and she has also a terrific course. Just she mostly excels with all things video, and she has her website is, believe it or not, Savvy Sexy Social. And it was so funny because when I signed up for that, the bank rejected it 3 times. It's like, why can't I pay for this? Well, they found the name suspect. It's not like typically one I would buy. Yeah. And I had told her this, and I finally had to use a different credit card or something so I could get it. But she's truly fabulous. And Bill, she is all over now trying all these blabs and Periscope.
What's her name again?
Her name, it's hard, don't ask me to spell it. Amy Schmittauer. I think it's SCHMITTAUER.
You Googled nicely.
And
I got half her name in, and she was there. That's nice. It's right there.
She's.
You know why she's good? Because she Googled nicely. I did half of that. She Googled name.
Nicely, and she's young. And I'll tell you, people. I don't know. I'm happy to learn from the younger people too. I will learn from anybody. She'd be a fabulous one on your show.
Let's interview. You can come up with me. You can interview with me. We'll do a joint show.
She and her Facebook group, which is part of that membership that I also had bought into, and she did a half-hour personal phone-to-phone with me, first by beginning to evaluate the website that I had, give me ideas, etc. So she's very good, and she's very energetic, and she's one of those up and comers. She's there. Kim Garst is another one if you're into especially the online or instant broadcasting type of stuff. She's quite good. So,
my 8th grader uses different computers around the house, and she logs on. I didn't even see this till yesterday. She logs on to her school site, which is run by Microsoft 365, and she does her papers online.
Yeah.
Many computers.
Everything seems to be going online. There's part of me that likes that.
8th grader.
Well, I know that's a little alarming and scary, but here we are, Bill. Okay. We're beyond 8th grade. We're in 18th grade now or something. But we're still here. And yes, older people can learn stuff. We can teach stuff. It just depends.
I'm going to try to contact Amy when we're done here today, and I'll see if I can get her on. If she does, here we go. Let's get Jonathan's back with a question.
Or yes, what is it? It should be my present website. It's
not responsive. I did it too. It's Wix, isn't it?
Wix, Wix.
It's definitely not responsive. That's why you're learning WordPress, because you're using Wix. And I would tell somebody not even to learn Wix initially. I say just take the time. When you're still working your job, start learning WordPress. Yeah.
And actually, I've looked at that. I swear I've looked at it, because in Wix, where I created the program, you have to go to the mobile side, and now it doesn't come out looking quite right. Something's mismatched, and I've had to deal with that. So I don't know if you're looking at the one named laurabelgrave.com. I haven't looked at that in a while, and I need to. But that's the whole point. That's why I'm moving it. So
I just looked at it. I hadn't looked at it yet. I didn't know about that site. I looked at your other site. But you've got 2 sites then, too.
Well, the other one is to support my mysteries, my couple of mysteries I got out there, the 3.
You have 3 sites? Or just
no. It's laurabelgrave.com is simply my my author website.
Now, what are you using for? You're using what kind of camera are you using for your video?
Panasonic FC2000.
Okay.
The wonderful camera. It's a bridge camera. I would never, ever give it up, because you can pivot instantly. I'm not fumbling around with 30 different lenses and missing the shot now. It's got like 240 zoom. It's an amazing.
What's the name of it? Panasonic what?
FC2000. Hold on.
FC. Wait a second. FC 2000.
FZ. Yeah.
FZ. That's FZ. There it is. 200. FC 1000. Right, 2000.
Yeah, this is it. It's a Lumix. You hear me? You didn't lose me, did you? Yeah. FC. It's got a Leica lens in it. Yeah,
Did you
the
buy
Panasonic DMC-FZ1000. I'm sorry,
I think I found it.
FZ1000. And look at the zoom on it. I don't know if you can see it. 25 to 400.
It's all one component. It comes with a lens on it.
Yep, one lens, baby, and this thing just will give
You flip
you
it around.
to
So it's,
terrific zoom. It's easy enough to use, quite comfortable for me. And this is my third Panasonic bridge camera I've had. And, back in the day, I had
it's very reasonable. Well, the 200, there's a 200.
this is the 1000,
Panasonic.
FZ1000.
It's 1000. Okay. I found the 1000. That's probably
Yeah.
1000.
So, given that so much of the video I've shot has been gun and run, essentially, where I'm walking into something, I don't know what.
Price-wise, it's very reasonable.
Yes. And, I know cameras are lighter now. I had a Minolta SRT 101 back in the day. Loved it. And I had a really long zoom lens. I had all kinds of lenses. Well, I don't want to lug around that weight anymore. I don't want to stop. I'll never forget with this camera, or actually the predecessor of this one, I'm out at some nature thing with some nature photographers. And there was something happening on the rail of the boardwalk. And they're all changing out there, to get to their macro lens. Boom, I got this shot. They missed it. Because that's what this camera allows me to do, both for video and for still photos.
Yeah, I'm looking more and more. Right now, I'm contemplating trying to figure out how to just use this.
Me too. I'm trying to also adapt, and that's a little beyond my comfort zone. I think the quality's not quite as good, especially when you're on, say, Periscope, because it turns the camera.
That's an amazing looking camera for $600.
It's
all one piece, huh?
All one piece.
Luminex, right?
Luminex. And again, with a Leica lens.
Wow.
It's got a good lens.
You know more than I do about lenses. You're the expert in those areas. So if
No,
I ever
I'm
need
not an
help, I'll
expert.
call you first.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, but this is the third generation of this. Some skips in between that I've been using. It's got the hot shoe. I put a boom mic on when
Big batteries. Comes with
Yeah.
a couple of big batteries or something.
You have to charge the battery. I bought a backup battery so I can charge, when I always have two with me.
Well, I've used a lot of Nikons. We've had a couple of Nikons. And, and how long will it shoot for? How many minutes? 30 minutes?
It'll shoot for more than 30 minutes.
That's one of the problems with some of the DSLRs. They only go for 30 because.
I don't know. Bill.
And how about the sound? Can you hook in external sound or external mic on?
Yes, I do.
Mic?
I do.
You have a Rode mic or anything? Or how do you sound?
I have the Rode boom mic. It's the
boom or the shotgun.
Shotgun.
Yeah, that's about a $300 or $400 mic, isn't it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that much. The one I bought wasn't. I don't remember the exact name of this particular model, but no. I'd done some research. But the Rodes are good.
Let me show you the last toy I just got. I got a great price on this. I bought. Hold a second.
That's what I love about live streaming. We just got to get up every now and then.
I'm figuring out. This guy had an amazing sound, and what I do is I've got two mics. I tell people to start with this. If they're starting on Blab, it's basic course, the ATR $2,152, just like that with a little stand. Just hook it on your USB and call it a day.
Yeah.
And then this is $32 for the stand. But I have found something that is superior to this. It's got software, and I found it through doing Blab. It's the iRig iMac HD, and it is unbelievable. A little more expensive, but I found it at the Guitar Center for $50 less than Amazon because they were getting rid of them. It's unbelievable. The sound is so rich on this mic. It's just plugs. It's just strictly USB. So my wife is going out in the field with her laptop, and I'm going to try to do one interview a week from around Reno because when I do an interview, I get at least 100 new people following me when I do an interview, and she gets real estate transactions out of it. We make more money off the relationships she builds off the people when we interview because it's like instant. She gets to know like 100 people like that.
Wow.
So
that's pretty amazing. That's
but anyway, this mic right here, it's light, it's beautiful. I hope it's solid. You got to watch out with these little connectors, but it's really designed just to use with the iPhone or a laptop. It's specific.
I've got a little lavalier of some sort I've used with the iPhone. I'm still kind of
by far the best lavalier is the Rode lavalier.
Did I answer that? What headset? Answer question.
I don't really have to buy a whole lot of stuff anymore.
Oh.
But the Rode lavalier, this is the older version. This is phenomenal sound on an iPhone. The problem is
that's what I have. I think
you need a longer cord, and this cord's expensive.
Yeah.
I've had people. A friend of mine who got me into Genesis Dynamic, who owns a development company, he takes an old iPhone, sticks it in his pocket, records, and then he blends the sound back from the old iPhone with the new iPhone, and he uses this. And then
I'm all about simplicity. I need decent. Doesn't have to be the prices, but decent simplicity.
Yeah. Here's something you don't need to buy, but my next toy but I don't need the Zoom right now. It's this. That's the it's the Roland RL5 for recording beautiful sound.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
It's a backup with a mixer to back up like Blab, and it gives better sound what we have now.
Yeah.
But I just using Blab right now. But then those are some of the. You don't need a lot of toys once you find out the right ones.
Right. But sometimes you can make a mistake and you buy something because people are talking it up. Now, if I go to Amazon, which I often do, I'm going to look for the reviews the people wrote. You know, what problems, issues did they have, et cetera. And to me, it's like, okay, that's not a problem. That's not going to be a problem for me. But this one is.
Yeah.
And
I do that all the time. You can really find out what the problems are because I mean, if you look at the worst things, number one, and you look at them real fast, you find out what the short point is. I've had actually that happen to me after I bought something.
Yeah.
Even the one problem it has is curd. Hey, let me get you back. I'm going to try to get a hold of folks. Let's stay in touch. This should be up tonight. I'm a little behind right now in my editing, but I think we're both going to do okay in whatever we do.
All right. I shall look for it later, and then I'll grab that URL off of YouTube, wherever that is, and I'll find it.
Laura, stay in touch. I've never offered anybody that full-blown course other than the first people that signed up because you said that I'll sign up for that $5 course. So
yeah,
I thank you for that. So whatever I ever develop, you got for my life.
Okay. Well, and listen, just, email me, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll find out the name of that other guy that I think does great courses.
See what we're doing right now. We can figure out shortcuts to get places faster by working together.
Oh, I think so.
Any group.
That's one of the beauties about Blab I like is the actual interaction. I'm just disappointed I couldn't pay attention to this side thing at the same time I'm trying to talk. I'm
getting better. It's hard. It's much harder. But let me see if I can pin this again. What headset are you using?
Well, right now, hold on, let me look. It really could use some. I could stand to buy a new one.
If this works, I recommend you go to
it's a Logitech.
If this works like I think it's going to work, this or the ATR 2100, if you start doing more of the Blab, even though your headset's fine for now, I think to get the more rich sound is the Blab. Have you started? One thing we didn't ask you, are you planning on starting any like YouTube or Blab shows?
I haven't decided yet. There's this step I'm going through now, much of which involves learning. Then I can synthesize all of that information I've learned and decide, okay, Laura, what is right for you, for the people you're trying to actually reach, who are going to be most appreciative of or engage with me, one way or another. That's kind of what I'm after here right now. So I'm on a big learning gig. You have to do it. Some of them require investments. You just got to do them. I'm using Facebook ads. Boy, what a pip that is.
Is it working?
Yeah, but it's costlier, and I don't.
I've tried Facebook with my wife's real estate and haven't got any effects yet.
Are you doing ads? You can't just boost the post. If you boost the post, they're only going to your existing fans.
Yeah.
So you have to create Facebook ads that will attract people to what it is you're trying to sell or just talk about or give away, so that they become new fans of your page.
I try to do geo areas around open houses. Geo. Area.
Yeah.
That's what I've tried. I just haven't spent enough money probably in it. It's just kind of an area. Now, some real estate agents are tearing it up, but they're spending $1,000, $1,500 a month on the ads.
Yeah, I can't afford to do that, but I'm spending more than I thought I would for sure.
So who are you targeting on those ads?
Well, right now, kind of social media, it's a little confused. So social media, video, same people that we're talking with here, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, and also healthcare, because again, that's an area I think that so many of them need help. And even if they get it down, they fail to update or keep up. And that's the stuff you have to
Yeah.
work.
All of these healthcare facilities, all these senior care facilities, they all need some kind of social media and a website presence.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people designing these websites are young and they're clueless about that area because there's such a gap there.
Where's this Jonathan? Did I like him yet? How do I know if I even liked him?
Jonathan. You can catch him on Saturday mornings. He's a great guy to blame for anything that goes wrong. He's really good.
Okay.
Everyone should have one of those.
Hold on. I'm taking a screenshot. This is easier yet. I use this great screen camera. Just
screenshot.
Yeah, just get a screenshot and I can type it in. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah,
All
Jonathan's got he has got once you get going and you get your site set up, most people do it. He's got a developer group around him. And for about $50 a month, I mean, it's not a lot when you start making the money. When you start making $5,000 or $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month, you want your websites, you want somebody to watch your websites for you and maintain them or call them. And it varies depending on the price, but you can get so much work done for free each month in the maintenance package. It's basically somebody taking care of your sites to make sure they're maintained, and somebody you have to know, like, and trust. That's one thing you have to know, like, and trust. One of my 7 clients last year, I got his domain site from India back. It took me a year, but he started cheap by $800 by setting up his company, which is he sells ranching equipment, and but he needs to take time to learn the basics himself, or he's going to get screwed again.
Well, that's not good. That's never good.
This guy. So, hey, let me go. We had a great conversation. Thanks everybody in the Blab community, and
please, thank you, folks. Honestly, it's tricky to try and juggle a couple sides of the screen. And
I suggest just consider this, that you start like a weekly Blab just to play with it, and just put me on an email list. So when you do it, I'll come up and here's one trick I've learned on Blab. We do a show called, and it's the only one we really do this. I do this on. I should do it more, but it's called it's called Meet the Voter, meetthevoter.com on Sunday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on autoflow right now. I just send out a link. The problem is I had yesterday is I wanted to keep people on message, and they couldn't stay on message because they didn't want to talk about Bernie Sanders' failure. The left didn't want to talk about Bernie Sanders getting destroyed because they love him so much.
Yeah.
And they just wouldn't talk about, we wanted to go into what's going on, what's happening. And then I'm on the right, and I'm not, when I say right, there's a Republican and Democrat side. We have no centrists, though, I don't think, in our group. Maybe the guy from the California, we have actually what I consider the number one consultant, the smartest consultant in California in Republican politics, comes on the show.
Oh, wow.
But he's not admired by the oligarchy over there because he's very, very good. But he's not right. He's not left. He's more of a centrist, moves around from middle to the middle right. But he has done amazing things getting people elected. And he actually works. I can't say who he works for. But when he's not running campaigns, he works for a state senator and gets paid very well as a director.
Now, how do I get into that? That should be my next business gig.
That's my clients. I mean, I love to get something going. See, I think we can help each other. You establish these concepts at work. I know a lot about how to get people elected politically in local elections.
Yeah.
So I did that. I did that before 9/11. I had a marketing company. We had design, build, construction, real estate, and marketing. And I used to use the marketing company to get local officials elected.
Wow.
And I figured out how much the consultants were charging for these guys. I would do it for free. And I take someone with a fraction of the money and get them elected. And what I see, unless you have tons of money, I mean, if you have tons of money, hire the very best and elect it. But I just saw a guy have to drop out of election who should have won election, but he started 2 years early. He hired a consultant early on. So he's been spending $3,000 a month. And then his fundraiser was he bought the very best people, but they ran out of money. So now he doesn't have enough money for the campaign, even though he raised a lot.
Oh, I could never be a politician. It's just no.
Oh, it's hard. It's a weird business, but I'm learning ways that people can win elections with a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And I do have to charge him something down the road for this expertise, because I used to do it because I had other sources of income. I design, build, construction, real estate, but I developed that over years, and it definitely works, especially this cycle. There's an anti-incumbency, anti-establishment on both sides out there. And someone can come in with a different theme without spending. Trump hasn't spent any money per se. Bush spent
I don't think too much.
Bush spent a ton of money and got nowhere with Carl Rove and the old guys. Bush didn't even own his website, his domain. JebBush.com.
I read somewhere that it kept, converting or switching over to Trump's site. I don't know who did that.
The Bush family has been in politics for 100 years, and they haven't kept up with any of the new technology. JebBush.com goes right to Trump.
Yeah, that's what I read that. I heard that on an NPR or something. I don't know what. But
yeah, that's how poorly and how out of touch he was with this election cycle. And that's Carl Rove too. Carl Rove's totally out of touch. I don't want to get into politics because I lose clients when I talk politics. So
I try not to go there too much. It's because it's not my main
thing. I go there.
I've
had friends killed because of politics. I almost got killed because of the State Department.
Oh,
I mean, one of my missions was compromised because of the State Department, and I almost got killed. And people and 4 young soldiers got killed, and these were new appointees. Actually, it was between administrations, and so politics does make a difference, and people die because of the decisions that politicians make. I've seen it firsthand.
Right.
I had 4 soldiers who were protecting us coming in after we'd been compromised from the State Department. State Department basically left out our mission before we went there and we got compromised. We were going to a university. I was taking State Department people, and the dummies, let out information about what we were doing, and we got very close to all getting blown up because of them. And that's a personal relate. I mean, I've worked with the State Department a lot in what I did in my program. So even more so, I was already politically inclined, but even more so now, I'm not going to talk about who I'm supporting now, but I know how people feel. If you want to run a business, you really should stay out of politics because it destroys your business.
Well, I just hope one thing, and I'm not going to say what side or not I'm on. It doesn't matter. People who make it matter, like that's the only thing that could possibly, I think that can be more divisive than anything. And I hate that.
It is very so.
Whoever it is who wins, please God, let it be somebody who finally can actually get Congress to do stuff. Whether I agree with it or not. I mean, that's where it's all.
I don't want him to do the wrong stuff, though. I'd rather have him do nothing than the wrong stuff.
But can we learn all to compromise a little bit, just a hair here, a hair there, and without all the stuff. But anyway, that's off track.
My biggest, without going into too much theory, and I think everyone agrees on this, is our right now our budget's $3.84 trillion, and we're going into debt every year.
Yeah,
and it's going to catch up with us if we don't watch out.
Yeah. What if we did that as individuals? Would not be a bad thing.
You do that for a while, but you have to that's why you said it early in the show, and I think it was a good point, is you've got to figure out how to monetize and monetize fairly early and not go too fast unless you have a lot of money. Have you heard of, and one closing is there are tech companies that burn through money and run out of money really fast.
Yeah, I think so too. Too.
Anyway, let us go. Let's get off the politics. Laura, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so
much.
much.
To 10:30.
Folks to the right in the column, thank you all. I really do appreciate your attention, all of you, and Bill, for you.
Thanks, Jonathan, for bringing in today. You could have come up and said hi. In fact, Jonathan, if you want to come up and say hi in 2 minutes, you can say hi. He's probably in some think tank or coffee shop someplace. Do you ever go to the coffee shop and work?
I have, yeah. Not
Jonathan's
lately.
got a developer team, so he can move around and tell the developer team what to do. So anyway, thanks, Jonathan. Take care, everybody out there. I'm gonna do the last 30 seconds. Say goodbye.
Bye, folks. Appreciate your time.
I just said say goodbye, and let's try to schedule about 90 days from now.
You got it.
Thanks, Laura. All right, bye.
Bye.
I'm going to X you out to make
Go
sure
ahead.
you drop off. That's one thing when I make you a host. I find absolutely if I X you out first, I've had people stay on for like 6 hours afterward because they don't close out properly.
I can X me out.
I'm going to no, let me do it, because what happens, they'll X out and somehow they'll come back on. It's really strange. And then I've had to come back on 6 hours later, X them out.
I'm about to be X'd out.
It's a blab and say goodbye. You X you out. Being X'd. You're X'd. So not sure if anybody can figure out that blabism right there, why you come back 6 hours later and one of your hosts is still on or is holding up the show. So I tell people to restart their computer when we're done. And hey, another good Blab interview. I'd like to have more of these. If you know an interesting person who wants to be interviewed, please send them this way. I'd love it. Go to my personal email is bill@conradteam.com. Let me type that in if you need to send me an email. I'm also on Twitter, but the problem is I've got a lot of Twitter accounts and I don't get to all my Twitter mail. Take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye.